This conference will now be recorded.
All right, we're going to call the police committee meeting to order Wednesday, January 6th, 2021. It is now 5:04. Is there any public comment? None. Disclosure of conflict of interest? Hearing none. Look for the approval of minutes from 12/2/2020. Look for a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say, this is Stan Malagranda. I am here at the Village Hall due to the governor's mandate. Sorry.
And we have Julie O'Rourke, Sally Bennett, Jeff White, and Nick Half on the call today.
Apologize. So again, we'll go on to number 4, which is approved minutes from 12/2/2020. Look for a motion for that. Did you happen to read that yet, Julie?
Yep, I read it as I opened up that email. I'll make the motion to approve.
Did you make a motion?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor? Oh, we have to do a roll call. So Julie O'Rourke,
Yes.
Stan Malagranda, yeah. Number 5 is executive order, Lexipol use of force policy. This is coming back to committee from the board meeting.
So if you look through the one document that says Executive Order Policy Compliance Form, I put this together to outline where to find each item. I do have a little change to that. We still have a little more time, so we can review this and take it back to the village board. If you have any, please, in the future, if you look through all this stuff, item section on that form, policy compliance review, under section 3, item 8, no knock warrants. There was no warrant policy that I could locate in Lexipol that addressed that. I was able to make contact with our representative from Lexipol and was able to find out there was a warrant policy. Originally in the manual when we adopted it, but we had taken it out because we didn't serve warrants. But I spoke to a representative from Lexipol and was able to put that policy back in play for our policy. So that'll have to be added into the policy. But everything else that's outlined in the executive order is listed there and which policies cover it. And within the email that I sent with all the information on it is each policy associated with that policy associated with this document. So as for prohibition of chokeholds, that would be under policy 300 under 300.3.6, and I outlined what it was and what it says. Use of force and de-escalation techniques. I listed the policies, what subsections those were under. So there's policy 300, policy 309 addresses that issue. Duty to intervene and report, policy 300.2.1 addresses that. Training use of force, training protocol use of force and de-escalation policies 300.3.1, 300.8, and 300.9 address that. Appropriate medical care. Yes.
Are these policies also attached, or what? How am I supposed to use this information?
Yeah, there should have been all that stuff attached to the email I sent. So if you go,
Okay.
So you'll see PDF documents. So if you go in that list and find use of force update Lexipol policy 300. So if you open that up, you should be able to cross-reference the policy numbers that I have listed, like in section 3A, use of force and de-escalation techniques. I or 1 is termination of use of force. That's talked about in all those sections of the use of force policy, along with policy 309, which 309 is conducted energy weapons, our taser policy.
Okay, when I open this document, I got all kinds of colors going on. What do those colors mean to me?
That's because Lexipol did an update and has not been approved yet. So the red is what they took out and the blue is what they added. If there's no color to it, it has not changed.
What's the yellow highlights?
That's where I kind of highlighted the areas that were referenced in the policy as far as
Okay.
what applies to the executive order.
Okay, so when I look at your summary document, I can look at these individual things and I'll find everything. So we as a committee can feel comfortable that everything from that executive order is addressed because we'll have all the committees to reference, right?
Yes, yes. That's why I
Okay.
attached all the policies to it, and that's why I made this document. So you can
Okay,
go-
I am so sorry. I'm sorry
No,
I didn't see it before now.
No, it's okay. I understand it. We have we have a little bit of time. We can bring it back up in the board meeting on Monday, and hopefully we'll have a handle on it. And once the no-knock warrant, the warrant policy is looked at, I didn't get a chance to look at it today. There is a certain section that applies to no-knock warrants, so I will put that in this document as well. And a copy of the policy, that way everybody will have it. And if there's any questions about, okay, well, where is this covered in the policy, you'll be able to use this document here and say, well, it's under the termination of use of force. It shows in these 3 policy sections, you know, let's say 300.3.2, 300.3.3, and 300.3.4A, and policy 309 covers that, the termination of use of force. Early intervention systems covered under the policy 1054. Go ahead, Julie.
I was just going to ask Stan, have you had a chance to go through this, Stan, and to verify that we're covered with under this executive order demand or whatever we want to call it?
Yep, Jeff and I went through it a while back, and everything is right there.
Yeah, and Mary Gaziano was also looking at this, so I'm going to call her. There was a couple things she asked about, so I sent those to her the other day. I haven't heard back from her. I will contact her again tomorrow, see if there's any other issues. I know this warrant policy will be brought up to her when I speak to her tomorrow. And that'll have to be added into the policy manual and put out to everybody else. But as far as I can tell, and I spoke to Jennifer Hollerback from Lexipol, she's our rep for this area, and she says, you know, they've not had any agencies come back to them and say there's something missing, or when they submit their policies for certification for the use of force, they've not got any feedback from any agencies that's had any problems with the Lexipol policy fitting within the parameters of the executive order.
Okay.
So I think we're good. I talked back and forth with Jeff Schelling from Duran. I provided this to him as well, this compliance document that I made up. He says, wow, that really helped me a lot. So I know what to look for, because he's new to Lexipol, and he didn't know where to find all this stuff. And I said, well, I'll just send you this, and then you can look it all up. And that's how I found out that there was a warrant policy in there, because Jeff says, well, I have a warrant policy. I said, well, I looked through mine, it's not there, but it just wasn't shown. There's a maneuver you have to go into Lexipol when you're in their website to bring that policy back up, and I was able to do that. So
Okay.
Everything should be covered with what's listed here. I mean, you can look at all these documents, all these different policies, and you should be able to use that compliance review document to locate all those things.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Oh, yeah, well, with the confusion that we had last time, I thought, well, I'll just put something together so everybody can just go, okay, where is this covered in the policy? And that's why I did this, to make it easier for everybody. I know everybody has busy lives and all that stuff. And I thanked Jennifer Hollerback, because Lexipol actually put out a guide to indicate where to find all the stuff in their policies. So that helped me locate all these policies, because the executive order says use of force policy, but in Lexipol policies, some of these items are not covered in the use of force policy. They're covered in other policies. And this document that I got from Lexipol points that out. It says, okay, this item right here is covered under this policy. So all I had to do was search into that policy and find what they're speaking about. There's one or two documents in there, the policies, I highlighted the whole thing in yellow because it's all relevant to the executive order.
Okay. So
You're going-
hopefully, I'll look at this before the board meeting, which I think is Monday, right?
Yep.
So, Stan, we won't be able to say this is coming from committee because I guess I'm not ready to vote on it tonight, but, we can still say, I don't know how we bring it. There's a different method. We can't say it's coming from committee and recommended. But we can still vote on it and get it approved because I think you need it approved on Monday, don't you, Jeff, to get it submitted on time?
I have to have I have to get certified by the end of January, end of this month. So, and I'm sure if I submit it and there's an issue with it, there's some problem with it, they will let me know and get back to me, and then I can make any adjustments that are needed. I don't think it will, but just in case.
All right. So I'll look at it and then I'll give you the thumbs up, or if I have any questions, I'll get back to you, Jeff, and CC Stan. Does that work?
And then tomorrow I will send you the policy on the warrant policy.
Okay.
That'll cover the one item that's listed in 3A, item number 8.
Okay.
And just to let you know, Julie, is that I will probably not be available Monday for the meeting. My sister passed away this past Monday, and we're having the funeral on Monday, and there's people coming from out of town to be there and everything. So I probably won't be in the meeting.
Okay. Sorry to hear that, Stan.
And it's past 5 years really sucked. Excuse my French, but all my family's gone now. So, but any other questions on this number 5 executive order?
And like I
Not
said,
for me.
Julie, I'll get that item number 8 on the list section 3A to you
Okay.
tomorrow once I talk to Mary, and then you can review that as well.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to number 6, which is the new hire.
So we got confirmation that actually yesterday was Sarah McWhorter's first day officially that she was hired in. She's very excited. So there's another story to go along with that, but I'll wait for my report to tell that story from yesterday. But she's doing well. She's very excited to come out here. She's got some good ideas. I had an idea to have her to get familiar with the businesses here in town, is have her go around to all the businesses and places and update our contact sheets for the village, not only for the police department, but for the village itself, in case we get calls or something like that that we need to go to, or alarms that go off. So I figured that'd be a good interaction for her to meet business owners, be seen by them, and they can get comfortable with her, in the first couple of weeks she's here. So that's kind of the idea that came through. She's very excited. So she can't wait to have her last day on the 11th with the sheriff's department. So she's not working. She's actually off. She's taking TC. So she's not working there, but she's on the roster here, and we got that all squared away today.
And she will be sworn in on the 11th.
Yep, she'll be sworn in. I think we're probably going to do it before the board meeting so we can take pictures and stuff on Monday. And then hopefully she'll stick around for a little bit, at least say hi, maybe see her face on the camera or something so everybody recognize her. I know Nick Half is going to send out an email that basically kind of introduces Sarah to everyone on the board, so they can put a face with the name. So if you haven't gotten it already, that should be coming soon.
It's still something that's right.
So we're good there.
All right, number 7, administrative tow fee report 2020.
So this is just an informational. We had the chart that I provided anybody. We brought in 6,000. I think I actually updated that since the way I put this together. $6,500 in tow fees for 2020. That's quite a drop from the previous years, but as you know, we cut back on our contacts with people and tried to avoid as much as possible. So I'm hoping in 2021 that number will go back up with the lessening or ceasing of the limited contact. So that's about half what we did in 2019. Now, 2019 was about 12,000. And with the addition of the 500 that's not on this one that I added afterwards, we're at 6,500 for 2020. And that's just informational, so you guys have, you know what's going on with it. So
Okay, number 8, monthly statistics.
this is something that I continued on with what Todd was doing. So these are the statistics for each month. There's 2 tabs. There's a call for service and offense tab, and a report calls and offenses by month, and then the previous years. As you can see, the thefts were up. Some of the other items were up. Suicide attempts were up. I'm sure that has a lot to do with things that are happening in the community and stuff. ID thefts were up 13 from 2019. There's been a lot of unemployment fraud schemes that are going on. In fact, we had an officer here that was a victim of unemployment scam. We got documentation through IDES for that officer here that he applied for unemployment, and he did not do that. So, and then domestic trouble, domestic battery violation order protection, that's up almost doubled. 2019 was 23, this year was 42. I think that has a lot to do with financial situations of families and things like that. So hopefully that'll go down. Criminal damage to property was up by 3. Battery goes up by 5. Aggravated battery was kind of a concerning number, even though it's only 3. I believe 2 of those 3 were strangulation events. That were events where the suspect strangled the victim to some extent. So there are some changes in the atmosphere as far as, like I said, I don't know if the restrictions from COVID-19 are causing this or what. But hopefully we
You
can
saw the news today. I think the whole damn world's going nuts.
Yeah, I know it. So if you go to the call for service and offense tab, we are down a little bit, obviously. 2019, we had 2,127 calls initiated and dispatched. 2020 was 1,742. Reports written in 2019 was 728. We had 467 this year. Traffic stops, obviously that's going to be lower because we limited our contact with people. Went from 499 in 19 to 180 in 2020. And then the total charges that we charge people, 95 in 2019 and 35 this year. Some of that's going to change because the way I have to get the information through the new report writing software. So some of those might be listed as traffic stops, and they're only listed as citations because we're releasing those people. We're not taking them to jail as we had done in the past. So that's going to skew that number a little bit. There probably could have been more arrests listed, but because we were releasing on a citation, they are not listed. So if you have any questions on any of that, please let me know.
I'd also like to add in that the way that we do reports now has changed a little bit since we went to this new system. We get a lot more information from dispatch now than we did in the past. So officers don't have to document as much as they used to, so that's going to limit and change the amount of reports that are actually written a year. So for example, a trooper out on 20 asks for another car for assistance. In the past, we would write a report reflecting that we went out on US 20 to help the trooper, whereas now the dispatch center logs all of that, and we can see historically where the officer was, what they were doing, and who they were assisting. So an officer isn't going to come back to the office and write a report for service other agency, because it's something that has already been logged several times by dispatch, and we can look it up historically. So that's going to change the amount of case numbers that we pull annually a year.
Yeah.
Or, you know, and same thing with like medical assist. If an officer goes out to medical assist and all they really did was hold the door for EMS, we're not going to require that officer to write a report, because it's something that we can look up in the CAD history, if that makes any sense.
Anything
I
you
think
don't
that's
understand
good.
about that, Julie?
What's that?
Anything you don't understand about that?
No, I think it's great. There's
Okay.
more time for us to do more important things.
Yes, yeah, and we're moving to a lot of more electronic filing systems. The new RMS allows us to add documents to an electronic file. Say we write a report and we have photographs from that report. Well, we can add those photographs right into the report, so we don't have to actually physically have a file on hand. Now, if there's a document as far as like a written statement or something like this, yeah, we would have to have a file, a physical file to keep that in case somebody wanted to see the original, so they don't try and say that we produced a document ourselves. We would be able to show it to whoever wrote the statement and say, is this your signature? Is this what you wrote? And they would say yes.
Okay, the only question I do have, so I'm looking at this handout that you gave us, the monthly statistics. So in the event that now we don't have to log, that we help somebody, does that skew this report or make this report look different going forward, or no?
It may, well, no, it shouldn't change. It may change the calls for service and offenses a little bit. But I get those numbers from all our cars calls. So if we get asked for assistance from, like, well, I'll use Nick's example, to assist the state police out on Route 20 for a traffic stop, we would still have a call for service, because they're going to generate a call for service for us. And where I get those numbers at are still going to be there. So even though there's not a report written, there's going to be documentation of that we went out on the call and were dispatched to it, even though there's no report written like we would have done in the past. So if you look, I mean, you're looking at, if you look at 2019, it's 2127 for calls officer initiated dispatched. The written reports were 278. So you're talking what, about a third? So of all the calls initiated and dispatched, about a third of those are written reports. That number is going to go down as far as the percentage, because of the fact there's not going to be a report written, but there's going to be a call for service. So the call for service number might be up and the reports written would be down.
Okay.
Nothing really changes, other than the officer isn't going to have to take time to write a 3-line report saying that they
Right.
went out on 20, assisted with state police made the arrest, I cleared and returned to the village. Now all that is logged by dispatch, the time that the unit got on scene, how long they were there, and when they returned in service.
Yeah. So it's going to be just something for us to, if there's a question comes up, say a village resident comes out and say, well, how come one of our officers went out on Route 20? Well, we can go back to that date and say, okay, they were assisting the state police because they requested assistance, or we got told them to go out there because they weren't answering their radio. You know, there's not going to be a report written unless we take action on something. If we have to get into a physical altercation, then obviously an officer would write a report for something like that. But if we're just out there just being as a safety net for them, there would be no report written.
Just
Okay.
trying to make it a little bit more efficient and clean it up as we go forward, especially with this new system and learning all the ins and outs.
Yeah, we're learning a lot what the system can do. We've developed a electronic patrol log now. So instead of having a paper log, these guys can just go in and do these electronically, and then it's a searchable document. If somebody questions about where somebody was at on a certain day at a certain time, we will be able to go back to their electronic log and say, okay, the officer was here at this time doing this. You know, if there was an allegation, well, this officer was here at this time, we go back to the patrol log, and we have GPS from the cars as well, and the CAD system to say, well, we can prove that wrong because GPS puts the car 6 blocks away at that time. So
hmm
the new system has a lot of advantages to it. So we're still learning what it can and can't do. So
Good.
Any other questions on that?
Nope.
Okay, move on to number 9, Chief White's report.
So now I'll finish the story about Sarah and Nick going to get Sarah's uniforms straightened out. So because of the local shop here, it takes so long to get things. And the vests that we have made in the past are made by a company in Chicago. They're a higher quality and they're just a better product and they're cheaper. They were able to take seven shirts down to this place, and within 2 hours they had them done and ready to come back. If we would have, I just ordered 2 shirts from Uniform Den probably about a month and a half ago, and they just called me today, said they're ready. So that's part of the story. Well, I get a call from Nick saying, well, the power steering went out at 1:13 while they were in downtown Chicago. Said, okay, are you comfortable driving it? Yeah, that's the only thing that's wrong with it right now is the power steering. Okay. If you're uncomfortable, park it and we'll get a tow truck out there and we'll bring it back. No, I'm good. Okay. About 20 minutes later, well, the car's all black now. Won't start, won't do anything.
Oh no.
So I call A to Z. I had them going there to go pick the car up. And I drive myself down there to pick those 2 up.
Oh no.
Needless to say, that was our excursion for yesterday.
Oh
I
my gosh.
I was looking, thinking it was going to be an astronomical bill for the tow to get it back here. It was dropped off directly at Kurt's Automotive last night around 8 o'clock. They looked at today, the alternator went out on it, so that's why it lost power. It wasn't recharging the battery or charging the electrical system in the car. So the alternator is getting replaced. That's about $400 plus the labor. I thought the tow bill from Ashland Avenue to Kurt's Automotive was going to be around $600. Well, A to Z treated us well. It was a $300 bill.
Wow.
So I had to give them some
Hey
recognition.
Nick, why didn't you take the new car?
Well, I told him, I said, well, he was going to take the Ford Explorer.
Right.
I said, well, why don't you take the car? Because it's driven less. That way it puts more miles on it, so it gets used because it doesn't usually get driven that much and it's usually driven around town. Well, I have to place the blame on myself for telling him to take it. So partial blame falls on me for that whole deal. But it was kind of an interesting excursion, an interesting day yesterday. So right now we're $300 for a tow and probably $600 for the repairs. I just got a call back from Kurt's about 4:45. He said that the alternator is not put out the right amount of voltage, so there might be an issue with that alternator. He's got to wait and get another one tomorrow to find out. So it's still down at Kurt's, and we'll figure that out as it comes.
Busting the budget on day 6 of the new year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, on a good side, I received a letter from the Quanex Foundation. Quanex, obviously, maybe you recognize it as Micron. It's up there at the corner of Elida and McNair Road on the northeast side. Basically, we got a $2,500 contribution from the Quanex Foundation for the police department, a donation.
Wow. Did you ask for it?
No, I did not. This is something they did on
Wow.
their own. So when I opened up the letter, the envelope, there's 2 letters in there. They're both dated the same, December 22nd, 2020. They both say Winnebago Police Department. And they both say contribution amount $2,500. The check numbers are listed there as well, and it's 2 different check numbers, 2710 and 2711. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe we got $5,000. And then I looked at the checks. One check is for the police department, the other check is for the fire department.
Uh,
So we have to split that with them, but the letter that came with them is a letter that they want us to return to them, sign, say we acknowledge that we got it, and for their records, they have to have it. It's basically a charitable contribution to us. But both letters had the police department listed on it, so I said, well, I don't want to sign both of these because it looks like the police department got all of it. So I'm in touch with Quanex to try and get straightened out so I can give the fire department their $2,500, and I'm not signing for $5,000 worth of checks.
Yep.
So, and I'll ask you this: you're the finance person. Is there anything legally about taking these donations at all? A charitable contribution?
I don't think so, because don't we do not for profit through the whole 4th of July Foundation? And this could be a Sally question. If
Yeah, I
she's
don't know. Sally Bennett, if you're still on there, she didn't find anything that forbade it. And I look back at the Erica Kelty, $1,500 that she donated, or her company donated. I think that would be on the same line, but we don't have a letter that we have to sign to send back to the Quanex Foundation to prove that we got it and it was given to us. That's the only difference. There was no requirement of signing anything, so.
Yeah, see, I'm used to 501c3 organizations, which are
Right.
not-for-profit charities.
Right.
That's not what municipal government is, but I'm not sure. That's probably more a Sally question.
Yeah, I think Julie's right. It's like receiving a donation for the 4th of July, and technically we do send a letter as a receipt for those. So thinking about that, that's probably similar to what they're asking you to send back, Jeff.
Okay.
They just did the work for you.
Yeah, they did the whole letter and just basically have to sign it and date it, send it back to them. Obviously keep a copy for us, but,
Right.
and I don't want to do anything with it until I get the fire department aspect of it worked out. However they want me to deal with it. I can send this all back to them and they can redo a letter, with the check or whatever, but I've talked to Miss Fay up at Quanex here in town, and she said she was gonna look into it and get back to me, and I haven't heard back from her yet, so. Other than that, I think that's about it for myself.
Okay, move on to number 10, Sergeant Happ's report.
Gotcha. I will cover a couple of the same things that Jeff covered. I've got some stuff on the new hire. I am working on the introduction email to all the board members and village employees with her picture, so you know what she looks like. We've also completed her fingerprints and ID card, and it's been shipped out today. And as Jeff said, her first day is set for 1/11/2021, and she's projected to be on her assigned shift by March 8th of this year. She will be going to the night shift that mirrors my shift, so she'll be on the same days that I work, only during the nighttime. On the 2nd of January, we lost internet from approximately 9 o'clock to midnight, which means that none of the officers were able to complete reports or communicate with dispatch via the CAD system. And when the internet went down, both of our officers that were working were actively on traffic stops at the time. So they had to kind of kick it back old school and do things the way that we used to do things back before we had computers. I've been working with county IT to get a backup VPN through their system. So in the event that everything fails here at the village, whether it be power or internet, we can still connect to both the CAD and the report writing software. I sent an email out. I sent a second email this week to county IT because they didn't reply to my first email back on the 20th of December. And as of this morning, I got an email from them saying that they're working on it, and we should have those backup VPNs here by the end of the week. So we're good to go there. We recently.
Nick, is there a cost to us for that?
No, there is no cost. They are providing the backup VPNs as a courtesy. They only want us to use it in dire need. So obviously they don't want us to jump on there every chance we get, just when our VPN or our internet kind of goes south.
Yeah, the Comcast thing.
And hopefully if we end up going over to Comcast, then this won't be an issue, and that will fix a lot of these connectivity issues that we've been having. However, in the last couple months, just since we went to this new RMS, I've had entire days where we haven't had internet in this office, and that's just not going to do for our staff out in the field. They won't be able to write a report, look people up. It's just not good for any of us. So yeah, we're good there. There's no cost for the backup VPN. We just recently did a big renovation in the office. We moved a lot of stuff around, kind of changed the functionality of how it used to be
More efficient.
and made it more efficient. With that, we also got that 50-inch monitor that will be mounted sometime in the next week or so, and that will display not only the security camera footage, but it'll also be a scrolling message board or information board for the officer. So it'll have the schedule on there, any upcoming court dates, important dates for them to keep in mind.
Training.
And we can also use that same monitor for doing web trainings and stuff like that. Training videos are coming out a lot in this last 6 months. So that'll be something good that instead of being focused on this little screen on the desk, they'll have the big screen to kind of sit back and actually view everything a little bit better. Speaking of training, a lot of training classes that are typically held at the beginning of the year, which are mandated trainings by the state, are being held off because of COVID. The Illinois Training and Standards Board is trying to figure out the best way to facilitate these trainings. And I've taken a couple trainings online that were initially supposed to be in person. So they're kind of scrambling, trying to figure out the best way to do it. And we'll kind of play that by ear as we go. Speaking of, one of the trainings that I did want to send an officer to was for a new field training officer to replace the position that I used to hold. And that training was supposed to be next week, but unfortunately, it's been postponed until who knows when. So I will keep an eye on that, and the more I know, the more I find out, I will gladly piece that all together. As Jeff said with the new RMS, I am finding new ways to melt it into our agency and figure out more functionality for us. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm currently building personnel files within that program that, again, make it searchable, but also make it a chronological, database for us to use so that we can keep track of our officers' trainings, what they need to come up on, and keep going with that. And then my last item is squad cars. For the last 6 years, I've kept a pretty good pulse on the squad cars. Mileage-wise, 113, which is the car that's in the shop, it's got 81,500 miles. 117, which is the silver Ford Explorer, has 45,400 miles. And 120, the Chief's vehicle, the black Tahoe, has 10,200 miles on it. Obviously, with 113's issue, it being in the higher mileage range, this is unfortunately something that we might look forward to in 117 because they share the same drivetrain platform. 113 recently went into the shop to have a recall done on the rear toe links.
Rear suspension.
The rear suspension. 117 also has to go in for the same recall.
No cost to us.
But it's no cost to us at all. While it's in the shop, though, we'll get an oil change because it's about due for an oil change. 113 was going to Kurtz Automotive this week anyway for an airbag light, which turned out to be a sensor in the seatbelt buckle. So they're replacing that while they also take care of this catastrophic power failure that we received in Chicago.
And
word.
yeah, that's a good word. I like it. Any questions for me?
Hearing
Hearing
none. Okay, go on to number 11, which is new business, and Chief White has something new to tell you.
Some kind of disturbing news, actually. Let me find it here real quick. There's a House bill that's been put up, that was put out last night. It's House Bill 163. The General Assembly filed a 611-page bill that eliminates the law enforcement as we know it from every community in the state. General Assembly has until noon on January 13th to pass the legislation before the next duly elected General Assembly takes office. So instead of going through all the rigmarole, I'm going to read through some of the items that are in this bill that would change the face of law enforcement in the state of Illinois. Requires any custody death reporting to the Attorney General, which I understand that makes sense. A statewide use of force policy. So every agency in the state of Illinois would fall underneath the same use of force policy, which I don't find as a bad thing. Don't quite know what this next one is, but eliminates prisoner gerrymandering. The next item is eliminates qualified immunity for police officers, making them civilly liable to siren chasing trial lawyers. Now, this is a sheriff in another county that put this together, so not my language. Eliminates officers' rights to collective bargaining, creating a special class of public employee who does not have these rights in Illinois. So basically, eliminating unions and their collective bargaining in the state of Illinois for law enforcement only. Eliminates impartial arbitration over burdensome residency requirements. Allows for unrestricted and ungoverned disciplinary policy of law enforcement officers. Prohibits departments from taking advantage of cost savings federal surplus programs or allowing the purchase of certain militaristic equipment. Allows officers to be punished or fired based on an anonymous and unsubstantiated or unverifiable complaint. No sworn affidavit. Currently, to make a complaint against a police officer, you have to file a sworn affidavit. This would basically say somebody could call in and make a complaint anonymously, and that officer could be punished or fired based on that anonymous complaint. Create a co-responder model for social workers with corresponding grant funds from Criminal Justice Authority. Mandates that those unsubstantiated and unverified complaints be kept to be used against officers forever, with no destruction and no limits on how they can be utilized to inflict harm on officers. Substantially increases both initial and ongoing education requirements with no money to pay for the increased costs and no assurances that the courses will even be offered. So basically they're saying require law enforcement officers to have more training, but they're not going to provide any money to help pay for that or even know if those courses are going to be available. Mandates the use of body cameras by all departments for every officer with no money to pay for the cost of those cameras, and 20 cut in LGDF funding if you don't. So basically you're going to cut any funding from the state if you don't fulfill that requirement of having everybody wearing a body-worn camera. Significantly increases the training requirements for those going through the academy, and those that are already certified provides no money to do this. Basically, they increase your training requirements at the academy, but they are not reimbursing any of that money currently. Defunds any department that does not comply 100% with draconian requirements of the legislation. Eliminates funding for new law enforcement agencies. Requires reporting to National Use of Force Registry. No more suspended driver's license for traffic violations. So you could get multiple speeding tickets, 8, 10, 12, and your driver's license would never be suspended. Complete ban on chokeholds and anything above the shoulders, regardless of threat of serious bodily injury or death. So basically, an officer is being attacked and doesn't have access to his tools that he has on his belt. You cannot try and restrain somebody by the neck to save your own self. And if you were to, you could be held civilly liable. Eliminates cash bail. So if you get arrested for an offense, say a class 4 felony, you need $1,500 to get out of jail, you pay nothing to get out. They basically, you go in and you're released. Enacts multiple benefits for felons, including access to victims' compensation. Right now, that victims' compensation is only for victims of crimes and not the perpetrators. Prohibits use of force in almost all situations and makes officer criminally liable for virtually any use of force. So if somebody attacks me, I can't use force to protect myself, is basically what's that saying. And if I do, then I can be held liable for it. Civilly, criminally, I'm sorry, I could be arrested for it. Removes prohibitions against obstructing a police officer. I stop and talk to somebody, have a legal reason to stop them. They give me a false name. I found out they gave me a false name. They cannot be charged with obstructing a police officer. Requires duty to intervene, which that's part of the policy. It's going through now, the executive order, duty to intervene. Institutes free phone call bill. Basically says if somebody's arrested, they're mandated they get 3 phone calls. Change parameters for getting a warrant, requires a plan for certain situations. I think this falls underneath what they call the no-knock warrant system. They just make it harder to get warrants, and you have to tell them exactly how you're going to serve it. No custodial arrest for class category B or C offenses, citations only. So class B and C misdemeanors, which mostly those are already citation only arrests, but there are a couple that can be taken to jail on a class B misdemeanor. Change the standard for conditions that have to be met to allow for pretrial release. Eliminates charges for habitual criminals. So the habitual criminals is somebody that keeps getting arrested, keeps getting arrested. They usually there's a charge in there for being a habitual criminal, and it raises the bar for those people. That would eliminate that. Charges officers with official misconduct, a class 3 felony for, I don't know what this word is, BANAL, and incidental issues. So if you accidentally create a misconduct issue, you could be held liable and charged with a class 3 felony for it. And last but not least, these changes to listed in this bill would be effective immediately. So if they pass it before the 13th, those would be into effect immediately. It's basically saying law enforcement officers are losing all their rights to do their job. Can't protect ourselves. We could be held liable civilly or criminally if we go outside the boundaries of this bill that they're trying to pass through the House right now. I think this is way out of line. I've gotten multiple emails on this from multiple locations, Illinois chiefs, everybody, and it's just it's ridiculous that basically you're handcuffing the law enforcement officers in your communities to where they can't do their job. And I would almost bet if this were to pass, that anybody that was close or had an inkling of getting out of law enforcement will do so. That's going to put a very large kink in law enforcement in this state if this bill were to pass.
What are you hearing? What are the odds of something like this passing, Jeff?
I have no idea. I just started getting these emails today. I know they're calling for people to contact their state reps and show their disdain peaceably and with respect, and try and get this so that this does not get passed. It just seems fairly odd to me that it gets put out last night and they have to vote on it by the 13th. So, and it's a 611-page document. So tell me how many people are going to read that 611-page document between now and the 13th.
They're going to pass it, then read
Yeah, that's
That's
the norm. They pass it and then they read it.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. So I just wanted to put that out to you guys so you know that's out there. I'm working with Jeff Schelling on contacting our state reps, and letting them know what we think.
And
What's the bill number again?
It's HB 163, amendment number 2. I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it today, but
I know that the Illinois FOP and the Chicago FOP,
yeah,
Fraternal Order of Police, the two largest police unions in the state, are obviously voicing their opinions and making the contacts where they can to let them know at what, cost this could possibly be to the residents of the state of Illinois.
And if it does pass, then we are in for a overhaul of the state of Illinois Lexipol policies.
yeah, this would change a lot of what is contained in our police policy manual right now. It would basically have to be rewritten almost from start to finish.
So it's a way to eliminate the police without passing a law that says we eliminate the police, is what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. I knew you were smart, but yeah, it's basically what, yeah. I'm not laughing, Julie. I mean that sincerely. Some people read that stuff and or don't read it and don't get the same vibe out of it, but obviously you grasped what it was looking at doing. So,
Well, and the temperament of the country right now, and it's just nuts. And I would hope something like this couldn't pass, but
all you have to do is look at what's happening in Washington D.C. right now.
I know it.
I think that's all we got. If you have any questions or comments?
You have any new business, Julie?
Well, I was just going to check on Randy. What's his status?
He's doing awesome. He's there was a snafu with about getting COVID vaccine shots for officers here, and I told Randy, I said, before you even think about going down there, make sure you check with your doctor. It's not going to cause any complications with any medication that you're on.
Right.
That ended up being a farce anyway. They ended up falling through. That was the vaccines they were giving out were for licensed EMS personnel only, and not law enforcement this time. So.
Oh, okay.
But I'm still working on another angle. We might be able to get everybody here vaccinated as far as the police officers anyway. So that was a phone call I was going to make today, but I never got around to it. So hopefully I can put that on my agenda for tomorrow.
I don't know if that sexual harassment policy or whatever it is we all had to do, is that under police or is that somewhere else? I'm just wondering if everybody did it.
Kelly is tracking that. So she would have any information on who is missing it. In fact, I asked her today, I said, was there anybody from the police department? There might have been one person that missed it, but I will make sure that that person gets that done ASAP.
Yeah, come to think of it, I think she emailed me and asked me to sign something, which I haven't done yet, but I did get the thing done by 12/31, on 12/31.
Yeah, I saw it. I think I sent it to you. Yeah, you've already proven that you did it. It's just a matter of having the documentation for it, basically just to sign the certificate. She can date it for the 31st, and then it'll be done. It requires your signature is all. So.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay, well, we don't need executive session, so look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, Stan Allegranda will second that. Roll call. Julie?
Yes.
Stan, yes. So we are adjourned at 5:58.
All right. Sounds good. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Allie. Oh, I guess I gotta stop the recording first, huh?
That would be helpful.